Hey Tim, quick video here. I'm just sending this to you as an overview of the MDO Ask funnel that we can do over the next 90 days to have ready for launch in January, along with the podcast idea. But this will help us get our funnel segmented properly so that we get a lot more sales and start to get a positive ROI. Also, while we're learning more about the clients that come in or the prospects. So here's the document I sent to you. And if you look at this, basically there's four pieces. Up here are just some of the tools that I found based on Ryan Levesque. He will probably find this very affordable survey funnel plugin, which is like really cheap. So we don't have to worry about that so much. But there's 4 steps here. And we have a website here, this Rocket Memory website that he did that actually was kind of where he discovered how powerful the segmentation and the upfront quiz funnel is. So then we can give them targeted offers after we prescribe them. So it's kind of like going into your doctor's office. The doctor asks you several questions. We're going to have our funnel do the same thing. The doctor asks you a bunch of questions, narrows down what you need based on your pains and your ailments, and then the funnel will put them in a specific segment with several automated messages as well as a prescription based on what they can afford and what they really need in order to move forward. So good thing is we haven't wasted any time or resources on the MDO system because we can just prescribe different pieces of the system based on where they're at, along with packaging it with coaching or other tools that they need based on what they need or what they can afford. So just jump down here to these 4 steps, and here's where I have the outline of this next 60 to 90 days. The first step is, and I color coded them too, and I might change this as we go, as we organize this and clean it up. But I had to organize this so that we could have a clear roadmap for us to begin really digging in and getting this work done. So blue step number 1 is to identify the 3 to 5 real buckets that originators have based on where they're stuck. And this is obviously, we're starting with the MDO pyramid. So, and here's the ask method that we'll use, the flow chart that will help us to fully automate all of our sales process. This is incredibly powerful because there's a pivot in here, and I'll get to that later. But let me not get distracted here. But let's go. The blue step is 3 to 5 real buckets for originators where they're stuck. So, in other words, they go into the funnel, they go into the survey, and based on their questions, the survey is going to identify what's their number 1 challenge? Where are they at in the pyramid? And even if the pyramid's not accurate right now, we can refine that based on their feedback, whether they know they're giving us feedback or not. So what I need you to do is go through these levels, and basically I've laid it out so we actually have the problems and the prescriptions. So just like they're going to, let's say we're the MDO doctors, right? So they're coming to us with their problems. They answer a few questions. We give them a prescription, and we identify with their problem, and we're able to speak to them at that specific language. So scroll down here where I have these boxes. Here's the first problem, and I just started some work, but I need you to refine this. So here's the problem, number 1. They're at the bottom of the pyramid. Here's the prescription. What are we going to offer them? What's the price point? And what are the upsells from here? Downsells, cross-sells. So the second problem, see, these are all segments in the bucket based on their answers. If they're in the $3,000 to $6,000 per month range, they're having inconsistent lead flow, blah blah blah. We need to make sure we have all their symptoms correct so we can market to them properly. Then prescription number 2 is going to be, what are we going to offer them? What's the price point? What are the upsells, cross-sells, all that, based on them being at this $3,000 to $6,000 per month range. We do all that here. The problem 3 is the third level. They're making $6,000 to $15,000. They have steady lead flow, but what are they dealing with? What are their headaches? What are their problems at this level? And then what are our prescriptions? This is where we start maybe ramping up the coaching offers. The medium to high ticket items start to come in here based on their ability to pay. At the lower level, we're going to give them some frameworks and some videos and some automated training because they can afford it. And then maybe the less frequent coaching, maybe if they're at the beginning, they can afford maybe once a month coaching at $250 or $299 a month, like Hovig. And then if they're in the problem 2 or problem 3 area, then we have different prescriptions. So problem 4 they're making 15 to 40,000 a month. This to me seems like way too big of an income gap, because someone at 15,000 a month might be able to do much less than someone at 40,000 per month, but maybe not. Maybe, we're talking about really fine-tuning their system, fine-tuning their automation, and leveraging their network to speak to more people, making them more of an authority in their area. What kind of skills do they need now to begin to become a leader, an emerging leader, and to employ people and to lead people and all that stuff? What kind of systems, what kind of software, what are the prescriptions down here that we have that we can help with? What are the price points, upsells, cross-sells? And then problem 5, they're way at the top. These might be people where we come in where they have a team of, they're a broker, and they might have 5 or 10 loan officers working under them, and we come in and we do something every quarter or every half a year, where we just go in and do a whole 2-day or something, or banks that have significant teams, so just think this through. What problem are they having at this level? Maybe even in the questions at the top of the survey, we might have to weed out, brokerages versus banks versus individual loan officers. We have to segment them somehow in the beginning. So those are the problems prescriptions. And then let's see here. That's the blue part. That's step 1. Okay. Let's see here. Actual quiz. And then right here is the initial quiz funnel draft that I started. It's still in the blue section. So I'll go ahead and mark that blue so we know. But these are the questions. We want to go for the least intrusive to more, not necessarily intrusive, but how long have you been an originator? That's not a threatening question. So let's lay out those levels. Are you a bank, brokerage? This is where I really need your help, so they can segment themselves. I'm a loan officer in a bank. I am a broker who has 3 loan officers working in my brokerage. Then the proper terms for this. Or maybe I'm a wholesaler, or maybe am I a retailer? We need to think about these questions that will relate to 60 to 80% of the people coming in. So we don't necessarily need to target the 5 or 10% of people with this. They'll weed through the system on their own. So let's think about the 60 to 80% of people, brokers, originators, loan officers that will come through based on the ads. And then number 3, this is basically the upfront survey. It's going to be probably 3, 4, 5 questions before they opt in. What is your monthly lead flow? What's your number 1 biggest challenge? And this is the most valuable question here that we can get to continue to improve. What's your number 1 biggest challenge you're facing as an originator, in your own words? And then they can describe that. These are all things I've taken from Ryan Levesque's survey process that he's made millions of dollars with on multiple different industries. So then 5, finally, after they do this, what's your first name and email, so we can send specific tips, strategies, directly to you. So, and we'll change the words on that. That's just this rough draft. So step 2 is the red. This is where the actual problems and our prescriptions are. So we need to nail these problems, prescriptions, and we can have different price points in the prescription. But I'm not worried about that. But what I want to make sure is we line these up right, so that when they prescribe in the right funnel, we're going to send them the right offers that speak right to the problems they're having based on their stage that they're at in their life cycle of being an originator. Step 3 is the orange. This is the Ask segment funnel. This is actually 3 and 4 where we're going to really do all the work. This is building it out. Once we figure out what our segments are and our prescriptions, this is where we're going to actually build out the different automated funnels and the pivots. Pivots are really cool, and I'll get into that in a second here. So basically, we need to make all of our messages for each of these 4 or 5 segments in the next 45 to 90 days. This is the work we're going to do, just the follow-up series. So once we identify the segments, then obviously the messaging is going to be pretty simple to follow up. So basically, they get in and they're prescribed. Some of them might buy the product right away. Okay, so they're going to get in, they're going to go to the landing page, they're going to segment themselves based on a little micro survey, these little buckets. The buckets are going to automatically put them in the right segment. Okay, if they don't buy, they go to the non-buyer series. This is the pivot. If they do buy, we have a little upsell sequence before they get into a post-buyer email series. So I'll just stretch this and make it bigger so it's easier to see. So what happens here is they come from an ad to our landing page, right? We persuade them with this little simple landing page video to take the survey. They go in through the survey segments them. If they don't buy right away, if they do buy right away, they go to the follow-up buyer series. So there's a welcome email consumption series that kind of walks them through the product, reinforces the fact that they made a great decision. Then we can do an upsell cross-sell sequence, 5 to 8 emails in. And then if they don't buy any of these things, then we do this funny little "Do you hate me" survey or "What's wrong" survey. And then they go through this, and we take another survey at the end of this where they may realign themselves, and we simply send them into the right funnel. So they may have self-selected improperly up here, and even whether they bought or didn't buy. But what's cool about this is this pivot series, Tim. Once we build this pivot series out for each one, every time they get to the end of a pivot series, whether they are a non-buyer or a buyer, it's going to ask them to continue to fine-tune their segmentation, and it'll just send them into another one of the segments where they can be offered the same process and buy a different product based on the new problems or the actual problems that they're having. So what's cool about this is first it segments them, then it follows them up, it sells to them, and then if they don't buy, then they get this series that basically soft sells them through stories. Then it gives them kind of like a limited time offer through the sales acceleration series. Then a feedback. If they don't buy, then we do the "Do you hate me" series, and then another pivot survey. So they keep going through these pivots. If they don't buy things, and the system continues to try to sell to them at their hotspot. So that's pretty much it. So we're gonna once we identify these and we build out the messages, then we just set up the pivot series so that all this stuff is automated, and then we should see a much better return on investment for everything we're doing because it'll be more highly targeted to where they're at, and we can begin to change things based on the open-ended survey questions. We'll actually begin to bucket these people more appropriately. So hope this makes sense. I'd like you to just kind of look over this and begin to work through here, and then we can chat in person. But I wanted to be a little geeky here and just do a video for you that kind of overviews this so you can check it out at any time. All right, talk to you soon.